My childhood friend used my phone to make an emergency call and is now claiming I stalked and harassed her for months. The detective showed up at my office on a Wednesday afternoon in October with a restraining order and a list of criminal allegations that made my hands shake as I read them. Detective Luis Hernandez sat across from my desk, his expression neutral but watchful, while I scanned the document that claimed I'd been stalking and harassing Vanessa Pruitt for the past 6 months. According to her sworn statement, I'd been calling her obsessively, sending threatening text messages, showing up at her workplace and apartment, following her to various locations, and making her fear for her safety. The restraining order required me to stay at least 1,000 feet away from her at all times. Violation would result in immediate arrest. I looked up at Detective Hernandez, my voice barely steady. This is completely insane. I haven't contacted Vanessa in months, except for one night 3 weeks ago when she borrowed my phone to call 911 because her car broke down on the highway. That's the only interaction we've had since June. Detective Hernandez pulled out a notepad. Miss Pruitt claims you've called her 147 times in the past 6 months, sent over 300 text messages, many of them threatening, and followed her on at least 12 separate occasions. She's provided phone records, screenshots, and witness statements supporting these claims. He paused. She also says the emergency call you mentioned never happened. I felt the blood drain from my face. Vanessa and I had been friends since we were 8 years old, growing up on the same street in a small town outside Portland. We'd stayed close through high school, drifted apart during college when she moved to Seattle and I stayed local, then reconnected about 2 years ago when she moved back to Portland for work. Our friendship had been casual since then, meeting for coffee maybe once a month, texting occasionally about random things, nothing remotely romantic or obsessive. The last time I'd actually seen her before the emergency call was in June at a mutual friend's barbecue. Detective Hernandez continued. Miss Pruitt filed for a restraining order yesterday after what she describes as months of escalating harassment. She's also pressing criminal charges for stalking, which carries serious penalties if convicted. I need you to come down to the station and provide a statement. I grabbed my phone, pulling up my call history. Look, I can show you my phone records. I haven't been calling her. There's one outgoing call to 911 3 weeks ago, September 28th at 11:43 p.m. And that was Vanessa using my phone because hers was dead. I can prove this. Detective Hernandez took my phone, examining the screen. Mr. Chambers, phone records can be complex. We'll need to do a full forensic analysis, but you should know that Miss Pruitt has provided records showing numerous calls and texts from your number to hers. He handed back my phone. Get yourself a lawyer. You're going to need one. After Detective Hernandez left, I sat in my office trying to understand what was happening. I was 31 years old, a project manager at a construction firm with no criminal record and a completely normal life. I owned a small house, had a girlfriend named Amy, played in a recreational basketball league on weekends. The idea that I was some kind of stalker was absurd, but Vanessa was claiming I'd been harassing her for 6 months with evidence to support it. How was that possible when I'd barely thought about her except for the night 3 weeks ago when she'd flagged me down on Highway 26? I'd been driving home from a late meeting when I'd seen her standing next to her broken down car on the shoulder. I'd pulled over to help. Her phone was dead. Her car wouldn't start, and she'd been crying about having to get home to her young son. I'd offered to call a tow truck and give her a ride, but she just needed to use my phone to call 911 for assistance. She'd made the call, thanked me profusely, and I'd waited with her until the tow truck arrived 20 minutes later. That was it. One good deed for an old friend. Now she was claiming it never happened and that I'd been stalking her. I called my girlfriend Amy immediately. She answered on the second ring. Evan, what's wrong? You sound terrible. I explained everything, reading portions of the restraining order out loud. Amy went silent for a long moment. That's insane. You've barely mentioned Vanessa in months. The only time you talked about her recently was when you helped her on the highway. She paused. Evan, this is serious. You need a lawyer right now. Amy gave me the number for an attorney her brother had used, a woman named Patricia Wolf, who specialized in criminal defense and false accusation cases. When I called her, that's when things took a turn I never expected. Full story is linked below or on my channel.